Hey guys, welcome back. We're here again for another edition of the Dr. Cloud program. And I'm so glad that you have joined us. For all of you who are listening live, this is the hour that you can call in. Let me give you the number real quick at the top. And so then you will have it. It's 844 940 2774. That's 844 940 2774 to call in and we can talk. And for the rest of you who, I guess if you're not listening live, then you already know that this is on demand 24 hours a day. We're there for you. So join us, even if you can't listen to the live hour that you can call in. So welcome back. We are. I wish I knew. I have to ask my team, guys. What number episode is this? For those of you who are just joining, this was just something that came out of the lockdown. I do a lot of speaking and traveling, and I've gone a lot, talking to audiences and everything, and we were in the lockdown after a while, and I had done some webcasts and things, and I just wanted to talk to some people, and so one evening I texted the team and I said, "Hey, what does it take to do a live call-in show? Just put it up on the web. Is that possible?" They got back to me about an hour later and said, "Okay, we can do it." And I said, "When?" They said, "It's not that hard." I go, "Okay, let's start tomorrow." And we started this program, and we didn't know what would happen. But what has happened is much more that matters, I think, than me just talking is a community is forming. And it's a community of people that join in. And the listening audience, we can tell from, that you're there, and also from the callers, the kind of things you talk about. But also, on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, that you guys are talking to each other, and you're going through the path of life, and you're giving advice, feedback, support. And that has been really, really cool to participate in. And so I'm excited about it. Now, if you like it, please share the link, because the only way we're going to get to stay here and keep doing it is if we build an audience, and we need your help to do that. Okay, so that's what we are about. We talk about life, we talk about how you feel, what you're struggling with, relationships, all of that stuff. And we have fun doing it because, hey, we got a fun audience. The not fun people, they can call other shows. We got the good people here. And here's the number: 844 940 2774. And this is, I just found out, this is episode 36. So we've been at this a little bit of a while here. Looks like, what's that, about 7 weeks. So that's fun. Now, let me do what I always do at the opening of the show. I like to talk about a little bit of an issue, and that's an issue that maybe something I'm dealing with somebody that I'm working with. It may be something in my own life. It may be something I've been studying that day or the week before, or just other important stuff. And that is this one. Um, what about forgiveness and trust? Forgiveness and trust. If you have forgiven somebody, does that mean that you're vulnerable and open to being hurt again? Does forgiveness equal trust? I'll never forget one time. I mean, I've heard this many times. There's one instance stands out. Um, I was working with a couple, and he had betrayed her significantly. Um, and she was very, very hurt and wounded still. And, they come in for counseling, and we start to work on this. And very, very, very quickly, I mean, I don't know, second, third session or whatever, he is really upset that, that she just she just can't let it go, and she can't trust me now. She's just not forgiving. I mean, I've told her I'm sorry, I won't do it again, and all this, and she's just not forgiving. And she basically, she wouldn't just let everything be fine and open up her arms and welcome him wonderfully back after a very brief little time. And he thought, for example, that once you forgive somebody and open up to at least engaging them in some way, that that means that you automatically trust them. That's the first problem. The second problem is just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean that you still aren't hurting over it. Well, let's talk about that piece first. I mean, if I, if we're floating along and you know, you you punch me, right? We get in a disagreement and you punch me, you clock me, or knife me or something. I could forgive you, as fast as I could forgive you, which means basically I canceled the debt. I'm not going to hold it against you, and I can forgive you 100%. But I've still got a wound that's going to take some time to heal. And a lot of times, in significant personal betrayals or things like that, just because somebody's still hurting doesn't mean you haven't forgiven. Because forgiveness has to do with, as the Bible is the best word for this. It means to cancel a debt. It's the same way that the banking system, you know, thinks about it. Like you write off a debt, you cancel the debt. You don't owe me anymore. Canceled. Either we forgave it, got it off our balance sheet, or somebody else paid it. But it's gone. I'm not trying to collect from you anymore. But that doesn't mean I might not still have some grief and pain and woundedness over what happened. That's the first issue. But the second thing is, if I'm a bank and I forgive your debt, okay, your debt's forgiven, and you walk in the next day and you want to say, okay, you forgave me my debt, so now lend me some money. I go, well, I don't know that I can lend you some money because I don't know if I trust you to pay it back. And you go, well, but you forgave me. What? You're not forgiving me? Yeah, I'm forgiving you, but I'm not trusting you. And here is the distinction. And this is really, really important. Forgiveness has to do with the past. Trust has to do with the future. So I can forgive you. Not going to hold it against you. If my daughter is doing something irresponsible and crashes my car, I can forgive you, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let you drive it again until what? Until my anger goes away? No, that has nothing to do with it. Until you have done whatever you need to do to show me that you're trustworthy. Worthy. There's the word, worthy. See, worthiness is something, we got to earn. Trust is earned. It's not freely given. Trust is earned. Forgiveness is freely given. That's another difference. So, trust is about someone proving themselves to be trustworthy. And the way you do that is a lot of different steps that we could talk about maybe on another day. But I don't know if I trust you yet. What reasons have you given me to show me, other than saying you're sorry? And then, great, you're sorry, I forgive you. But what reasons have you given me to show you that I can trust you? Well, I can drive better. How am I supposed to know that? Well, here's a certificate. I went to driver's ed, and I've just spent the last 6 weeks in instructional training and restudying and practice with a teacher. I go, oh, well, that's different. There's something different. I also watched 6 movies on car accidents and what happens when you're not careful. Oh, that's really different. I also called our insurance company and I figured out how much it's going to cost, with the increase of premiums, and I figured out a way to pay you back. Oh, that's different. See, now I'm getting a different picture. And then what I might say is, okay, well, let's go for a drive around the block, or, let's run to the mall. You drive. I want to watch. I want to experience this. And see, we take little steps, and they've taken some big steps, and that makes me start to be open to trusting in little ways. And then we try that, And as one of my favorite Bible verses says, you guys are laughing at me now because I know I say that a lot. He who is faithful in little will be given more. He who is faithful in little will be given more, which is exactly the opposite of how a lot of people operate. Some people get into a relationship and they give the other person everything, their whole lives, their bodies early on, initially, their minds, their souls, their hearts. They move in together. It hasn't been proven at all. And so then you find out the little things, you can't really trust them in the little things. Well, you've already given them to everything. See, it's upside down, it's backwards. So forgiveness and trust, not the same thing. Forgiveness has to do with the past. Trust has to do with the future. Forgiveness can be given. Doesn't mean there's not some pain still to be experienced. Forgiveness is free. Trust has got to be earned. Forgiveness can be, even though it's a process a little bit, sometimes it can be done as a decision. Trust is a progressive bunch of decisions, little to a little more, to a little more, to a little more, to a little more. All right, there's our little thought for the day. And let's go to the phones. From Perth, how about that? Brendan, tell me where you are. How did you find us?
Hi. Yeah, I'm calling from Perth in Australia. I've read a couple of your books and
wow.
Yeah, got woken up by my son early this morning, so I thought, look, we'll phone in.
Well, you kind of went out on me. What, did I lose you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, because sorry. So my question is regarding reconciliation. My wife and I had a conflict that had involved my sister and also my parents. We've kind of been on the forgiveness journey, and I understand from reading your books that reconciliation is another process. So we've been trying really hard to reconcile with my parents at the moment. My dad is insisting, though. He said, you need to reconcile with your sister, and it seems to be in his mind it needs to be at the same time, or he said he needs to know that it's happening and that you're committed to making things right with your sister. And we've tried to say, look, we feel that's a separate relationship. Yes, you're my dad, but we want to reconcile with you. We would like to make things right with you. And so my question is, are we being reasonable by holding that line? And secondly, what would your advice be in our situation?
Well, is the conflict like, who hurt you? Was it your sister, or your sister and your father, or you hurt them? Who's the initial conflict with?
The detail of the conflict there's been several over the years, I suppose. The latest one was primarily between my wife and my sister. And then at the time, this is nearly a couple of years ago, initially there was some words exchanged that my sister had found very hurtful from my wife. She has since apologised and so on. My mum and dad just seemed to get involved, I suppose, and we've always tried to say that we feel the issues that are there are separate, and initially we couldn't even get them to be in separate. We wanted to reconcile with them separately, but they were always insisting that they were all together.
Why do you need to be reconciled with your father if the conflict was with your sister? It sounds like you and your father might have a disagreement, but it's not a broken relationship. It's just a disagreement, right?
No, where my problem was, they had we felt that they had put all the blame on my wife for what had happened, which wasn't actually fair. She'd had certainly a part and had, from my perspective, had very much owned her part in what had happened. And I couldn't deal with the way that they had seemingly put all the blame on her. And that's probably one of my primary problems, certainly with my dad. But now that he's telling me, I feel he's putting conditions on our reconciliation by saying you need to reconcile with your sister. And we're just saying, look, it's not going to for us, it can't work like that. And I just don't know, is that right for us to be that way? Or
Well, there's no such thing by, de facto written in the universe that says, I can only be friends with you if you're friends with the person that I like, right? And so,
yeah,
um, that here's probably the way that I would approach it. I would, first of all, I want to ask you if your sister has apologized and owned her part of it. What's the barrier there? Why is there anything still left? Why isn't that okay?
um, from our point of view, she hasn't really owned a
Oh, I
part
thought
of
you
it,
said she
and
had. I thought you said she had. Okay, I
no, my
misunderstood.
wife. Sorry, that was my wife has. From my point of view, she has,
Yeah,
and apologized
I
several
heard that.
times to my sister, and so the forgiveness part, from everyone says at least that the forgiveness part we're kind of done with. It's now trying to reconcile,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
where we're kind of stuck.
Well, okay. So
Yeah,
here's kind of the principles that I would think about in that process. The forgiveness is
yeah,
something that you guys could do if she wasn't even in the picture, right? I mean, sometimes we have to forgive
yes,
people that have died, right? And so
yeah,
that's something you do from your heart. What reconciliation takes, and I should have actually talked about that specifically in the beginning, because see, forgiveness can take one person. Reconciliation
hmm,
takes two. It takes two people
yeah,
because we're reconciling, we're bringing back together as things were, right? And so
hmm,
if, you know, all you can do is your part, generally, the way we think about
hmm,
reconciliation is she would have to, if she has offended you, and then you tell her, and she says, "Gosh, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me?" And she's owning it, then
hmm,
you have forgiven and everything's great. Now, when we talk about reconciling, what we need to do is break down what does that mean? Well, it may mean, what, in terms of, we're fine. We're fine with the conflict. It's all gone. It does scare us a little, little kind of, little uh, sensitive here about what we want to make sure of is going forward that we're on the same page in terms of
hmm,
what the expectations are to not be hurt in these ways. And so if you can kind
yeah,
of talk about kind of like, I don't know what she did, but do you understand that that's something we don't want you to do because that's really hurtful, and can you promise us you won't do that? And so to reconcile, it's what I was saying earlier, to reconcile, we kind of need some ownership of what happened, and that leads to forgiveness and all of that, and the I'm sorry's, but then making sure clearly we understand here's the requirements going forward for us to be able to have a good relationship. And if everybody signs off on those, then we kind of tiptoe into that water, and that's how that works. Now,
hmm,
in relation to your dad, that's what I would say to him. And I'd say, Dad, I've really forgiven, we have forgiven my sister. What we're still trying to work out is we don't want this to happen again, and we don't know how to trust that quite yet until she really says that she sees what she did and that she won't do it again. And when we can trust that, then we're going to be fine. We're not holding anything against anybody here. but
hmm,
but Dad,
yeah,
what I need from you, Dad, is I need an understanding from you that you can see why sister's behavior was so hurtful, and that you can understand that and not hold it against me, that that I need to protect my wife. So we need an understanding there
hmm,
for us to really, you know, kind of be okay. So I would approach it that way.
yeah. I suppose that's where I've got to in that we've
Yeah.
tried quite a few times to explain to my dad, look, that's a separate relationship. And yes, we've forgiven my sister, but we don't want that to be. I felt like Dad was putting, and my mum as well, they're putting a condition on our reconciliation, whereby
Right.
from my point of view,
Well,
they're basically saying we need to
could,
know your. Yeah.
in some kind of way, I can understand. Like, if you were still being hurtful and you were doing something
Yeah.
crummy and all of that, and he said, "Look, I can't be cool with you, until you go apologize to your sister and try to make it right." But see, you've already done that, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
It
already
just
happened.
as a side, but my sister is also married. She's just yeah,
That's fine. And so all I'm saying is
yeah,
that you can forgive, and you can tell him, "Look, I'm doing everything possible to reconcile with my sister and
yeah.
make that right. What I can't do, Dad, is I can't go forward until she kind of promises, sees what's wrong, and doesn't do this again. And I need for you to give us the time and the space to do that. And if you can't, and I don't know, you don't want to talk to me, there's nothing I can do about that. I want to talk to you. I want us to be close. They're just different.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's kind of how I would look at it.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
hope that helps you.
Great.
It sounds like you're doing everything you can. It basic formula is we own our side, and we want them to own their sides, and we say we're sorry, and we go forward. But if that hasn't happened, then that hits a roadblock in going forward. That's kind of the principle.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for your call. And
Okay, thanks.
last
Yeah,
thing I'll lead you with is sometimes we want to all get together with a really, really good facilitator in the mix, a good big family counselor, and say, "Can you help us? We've hit a wall here." And that's why I don't know what the law's like down there in Australia. Thank you for being our first international caller of the day, by the way. So I don't know what the laws are like there, but um, here most contracts that you sign, most of them, a lot of them, you're going to see something that says we agree in the case of a dispute, we're going to go to arbitration. And what that means is if we get in an argument about this, we may come to an impasse where we can't get through it ourselves. And we're going to need a third person that doesn't have a stake in which way it goes or how it works out, other than they're trying to reconcile it. That's what a good counselor can do. And so, by the way, for those of you who are people of faith, um, I would just remind you that having somebody to settle disputes more than just you and the person is it's a law of physics that goes throughout the entire scriptures. I mean, that's what Moses did. Remember when Jethro came to Moses and says, "You're overworking, you're going to burn yourself out." Moses said, "Well, I'm meeting with the people, settling their disputes according to the principles of God." And he goes, "I know, but you're seeing too many of them. You need a rest. Get some other judges to come in here and do this." Well, the point was that God always said, and God told him to get some other people to hear these disputes. See, uh, an arbitrator, somebody can sit above it and get you guys back together. God always told us to have that. You go all the way to the New Testament, it says if your brother sins against you or sister or whatever, you go talk to them. If they listen, you work it out, you're fine. But if that doesn't work, you bring in somebody else. So don't feel like there's anything wrong with taking your disputes before a third party. It's a much cleaner way when you're really in an impasse than to keep tug and war. And if you're not a person of faith, what you notice is that's exactly what we do in real life, right? You can't work it out, you go to court or you go to an arbitrator and you got a judge. Hopefully, it's not court, because then legal stuff gets into it and somebody's going to jail and somebody's right and wrong and blah 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 blah, and the attorneys get all the money, and what a mess. Let's learn to listen to each other and solve our conflicts. Okay, that's a good idea. All right. What is our number here? 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 is the number to get live on the air. And if you can't call in live on the air, or you have friends that can't call in live, we can still share the program with them. I encourage you to do that. Send the link, share it with your friends, invite them here. As I've said before, if we build an audience here, which it looks like is happening, and it gets, large enough for my team to, to spend the time it takes for them to do this, and worth it for you guys to come and all of that. We love doing this, and we want to build this community. So help us by sharing it. And if you find the principles that we talk about here are helpful to you, go to check out boundaries.me. Boundaries.me. It's an online community and online video streaming coaching where I become your coach in all these areas. And we get to go through this journey together, and you build a community at the same time. Okay, boundaries.me. Let's go back to the phones, and we're going to talk to Jay, who's calling us from North Carolina. Jay, welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, but
hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. You got me with trying to swallow there, so I'm back. Thank you for calling. How can I help you?
Yes, sir. Well, my wife and I have been going to marriage counseling since November of last year. She just wasn't very happy with where we were at, and
how long you been married, Jay?
The story.
How long you been married?
This will be 9 years coming up.
9 years. Okay. And do you have children?
Sir. And no, sir, we do not.
Do not. Okay. And she wasn't happy. Why?
Well, some of the issues were regards to some of the decisions we've made in life, or the indecision on my behalf, to be perfectly honest with you. There were a few times we thought we were going to move, didn't end up pulling the trigger on it. And I think maybe some bitterness and resentment started setting in there because I wasn't comfortable with the move. And hindsight being 2020, wish I would have, but I did not.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Much appreciate your honesty. Yeah. That's first step in solving anything, right?
Yes, sir. And well, we moved forward, kept doing counseling. It didn't get much better as far as her happiness. And then 6.5 weeks ago, I found out that there was a third party involved. It was an individual within our church. And she is already moved out of the house on her own, kind of moving on with her life. And I'm trying to figure out, for me, how to deal with this, how to try to, because I'm praying for a miracle here. I would love for a chance to work on this, fix this, reconcile this, and, try to figure out what to do next. But everyone just keeps telling me to work on myself and trust God with the rest. And it's just really hard for me because I want to fight for this thing. I want to go for it, but it just seems to push her further away anytime I try to do that at this point.
Well, what is the, when you say you want to fight for it, because I agree, marriage is worth fighting for. But yes, what's been your methodology? What have you done to try to fight for it?
Well, a lot of that was done before I found out what was actually going on, before the confession came out. I had tried to listen to any advice our marriage counselor had given us, but also I was trying to just do the little things, write notes, try to, take us back to like when we were dating, and try to sort of woo her all over again, and with all of the little things. And then, of course, I was told to give her space. She needed some space, so I did that. We slept in separate bedrooms up until very
end.
What
about the underlying? She's saying you've wounded me in A, B, or C ways, Was that mainly about
Mhm.
not moving when she wanted to move? Is that the big
Uh,
betrayal?
well, there was that, and then I think the other big one was I work in the ministry, and as a result, we're not known to make a ton of money. And over the years, it kind of been a thing of, well, just keep working, serving the Lord, and He's going to take care of you. And I think she got, I know she got frustrated with the fact that my income wasn't higher, and I take sole responsibility for that. I should have pursued a second job sooner, but it wasn't until we realized how bad things had gotten that I took care of that. And once it came up in counseling, I realized what was on the line. I was able to get a job within about 2 or 3 weeks of that within the counseling period. But I think that
Okay,
was
so
that was the other big factor.
okay, now those are two factors. All right,
Yes,
not
sir.
moving, not moving, and not addressing the income issues
Yes,
until
sir.
you realize what was on the line, right? Let
Yes,
me
sir.
add a third issue that I think is bigger than either of those two. And I think also it will be one of the main keys to making this work if it works. The third
Okay.
issue, the third issue is that she was apparently telling you about both of those for a significant amount of time before anything happened, until it was kind of like you realized what was on the line, right? And so there was some way in which, and I don't know all the particulars. I don't know, but some way in which she feels like, and I wasn't there, so I don't know what you were doing or not doing, but she feels like
Sure.
she wasn't being heard, and she wasn't being, what mattered to her wasn't being really cared about.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what happens in a dynamic like that with, you know, some people sooner than later is they feel victimized by this person that's kind of doing this to them, right? Keeping her,
Yes, sir.
without income, or keeping her in a city she didn't want to be in or whatever. And she starts to feel powerless and she feels kind of victimized. Well, that sets you up as sort of the, you're the bad guy that's doing this to
The
her.
villain.
And, yeah, and
Yes, sir.
there's no such thing as a villain or a perpetrator and a victim. There's no such thing as that without the third party being either longed for or showing up, and that's the rescuer. And
Yes,
so
sir.
this is how affairs happen. Somebody feels estranged and they're kind of like, you're ruining my life, right? And then somebody shows up swoops in on the white horse and says, I'll treat you wonderful, and strokes him, or whatever it is, listens to him usually, and then they're gone. So
Right.
it's really understandable. What I would want to encourage you to do, and you might have done this, but I'm going to encourage you and name it so you can think about how to do it more systematically, is
Okay.
twofold. One is you have to have a strategy to make sure that she really knows not only that you get it and you're sorry, but that she really knows, I have really been thinking about this and learning, and I ignored your pain. I didn't I didn't let it in. I didn't let it affect me, and I devalued it, or I minimized it, or whatever. And I want to hear it now. I mean, I know I'm saying I'm fixing the issue, but I really want to hear how deeply I've hurt you. And I don't want to try to talk you out of it. I don't want to excuse myself. I don't want to explain it away. I just really want to hear it. And maybe we have to go meet with somebody to hear it, but I really want to get it. And I want you to know that I get it. And so there's this deep hearing of her woundedness that's got to happen, you know, first.
Yes, sir.
The second thing is, I think she's got to actually see the steps that you're taking. You got the second job, what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
to listen to and where she wants to live, et cetera, et cetera. And so that twofold approach. And then the third one is that when you're communicating that with her, to do anything that you can do to get her back in, back into counseling. But try to
Mm-hmm.
stay away from the persuasive mode and stay in the listening and trying to understand mode. And these are the changes I'm making. I know that you probably don't trust them. I'm making them anyway because I want to be a different kind of person. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the strongest approach that you can take, and continue to invite her
Okay.
back in. Now, I wouldn't do this every day. You're, put pressure on her, but I'd let her see enough to know this is real. And then let it go for a while as you're
Right.
continuing to fight and do all this. And at some point, people are right. At some point, like Ecclesiastes says, you wave the white flag and count it off as lost, and she's gone. But a listening,
Right.
caring, I hear you mode, and I'm doing everything to try to make it better mode, and I want you, that's going to be the highest percentage of good outcome. Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Okay, man.
I appreciate it very much.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry y'all are going through this. I would, I'd say that, and you know, every person, different people have different kind of thresholds for pain, like how much they can tolerate. And also, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know you guys, I don't know how quickly she goes into kind of, a feeling like you're all bad and she's the morally superior kind of victim. I don't know if she has that dynamic or not. I don't know her. So this isn't always as cut and dry as, you're the bad guy and always were, as sometimes it can sound. That's why we need somebody in here listening to both parties. Both of you have your own hurts and fears. Um, but I would say to you that when somebody does feel that way, they usually can't kind of see their side of it until they're first heard and understood, and the woundedness is cared about. Okay. Thank you for your
Yes,
call.
sir.
Sorry you're going through it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Oh gosh, broken relationships, so hard. So hard. And we can kind of look at ourselves, I think. Let me take a moment. Let's put ourselves in all three of those positions for a moment. You got the one that's really not listening to somebody when they're complaining. Don't do that. I always tell mostly husbands, look, if she's complaining, then, and you're taking that as criticism, you got the wrong set of ears on. A lot of guys will feel victimized by the quote complainy wife. She's not criticizing you. And you hear guys say, I can't do anything right. No, well, no matter what I do. And then they go victimy like she's criticizing them. Now, there are some critical people out there, I know, but I'm talking about a lot of times they're not criticizing, they're complaining. And you've got to hear that as a cry for help. They're wanting you. They're caught in some kind of pain, and they're going, hear me, hear me, hear me, hear me, come over and help me here. I'm hurting. And you know what? That complaint is the best thing you can ever hear, because it says that they want you still and they need you still. When you worry, it's when that complaint goes silent. Because now they've given up. And once somebody stops complaining, and we haven't done anything about the complaint, the need hasn't gone away. That needs to go somewhere else. So whether we are a boss, a friend, a sibling, a husband, a wife, whoever it is, when you're in a relationship and somebody tells you that they're hurting in some way because of our performance or lack of performance or whatever, then we need to listen. We need to listen. Listen. Help the hurt. Okay. Don't interpret it as criticism. All right. Now let's change roles a little bit. What if you're on the other side of it? Well, there are better ways than some to tell somebody that you're hurting, because some of this sounds a lot like criticism. It's a lot like judgment. It doesn't sound like vulnerable. I'm hurting. I really need you to hear me, and I need you to do something different here. No, it doesn't sound like that, does it? It sounds like contempt and judgment and critical voices. The things that, all the researchers will tell you actually can predict divorce, like Gottman's research, 91% ability to predict just by listening to a couple for 15 minutes. They can predict with a 97% accuracy if they'll be divorced in 7 years, just by listening for that, just by listening for the criticism and the contempt and the judgment. So if you're on that side of the equation, there's a way to complain that's not contemptuous and judgmental. Just letting somebody know as best you can. And in that third category, if you're the rescuer, doesn't have to even be in a marriage. It can be in a friendship, it could be in a team. Somebody's got a conflict with the boss. They run to you, gripe about the boss or gripe about a coworker. And we just listen and say, oh, they did what? Oh, they're so bad. And we join them. And we haven't even heard the other person's side of it. Well, then we're becoming divisive. A rescuer is divisive if that's all they're doing. See, if somebody comes to us with a conflict with another person, it behooves us to be for the relationship. How can I help the two of you work this out, instead of how can I help you feel justified in saying that this other person is all bad? That's divisive. And that causes divorce sometimes. That causes people to leave or lose jobs. Divisiveness. It's so bad that, back to my favorite verses, Paul, when he's telling people how to have better groups and teams in Titus, he says, reject a divisive person after a second warning. Divisive people are not good. And you see this in families and in teams and everything. So don't be a divisive rescuer by coming and joining somebody and enabling them to not try to reconcile a conflict. Okay, so that's a few thoughts about that. Okay, our number, 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. This is the Dr. Cloud Show, and I'm glad that you have joined us anytime around the clock, even if you're in Australia, probably a different time zone there. And share us with your friends, because we need for people to know about the program. And we don't have billboards, and we don't have airplanes riding in the sky, and we don't have anything but us, you, and all of us that are in this community. Let's form a tribe of people that are growing together and helping each other. And let's get herd immunity to dysfunction, right? Herd immunity. There's a new term you've learned over the last few months. It's when everybody's gone through it. Now we got antibodies. And the antibody to dysfunction is me learning to resolve those dynamics and to embrace that conflict and to fix it and to have difficult conversations and to get over my fear. And that's what we do here in this community. And as we do that and we deal with our dysfunction and we grow, we're developing a herd immunity together. And then when you run into dysfunction out there, you're not going to catch it. It's not going to get you. So we do that by forming a community. So go on Facebook, go on Instagram, YouTube, share with each other. Let's develop a herd a herd immunity, and let's share the program with friends, and we'll develop that together. And also, when you want to go further, go to this website, go to boundaries.me, boundaries.me, and it's our community of growth that we have by you joining that, becoming a subscriber, and I become your coach in all these different areas online. And it's fun. So join us, boundaries.me. Let's go back to the program and talk to, let me see, Wanda, who's calling us from Virginia. Wanda, welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Cloud.
You are so welcome. How can I help you?
Well, I need to know what my role is exactly with the conflict between my husband and daughters, who are just, to say they're clashing is to put it mildly.
How old are your daughters?
The youngest is 18 and the oldest is 27.
Okay, so they're adults.
Yes, they are. The youngest just decided during this pandemic to go live with the sister and told us that she was not coming back and she would not discuss it further.
Well, that's kind of hard to have a conversation with, isn't it?
Very much so, yes.
What in the world?
Yeah.
What now? Obviously, this didn't start during the pandemic. What's going on with her and your husband? Now, is she talking to you? She's talking to you, but she just won't talk to him?
Oh, yes, correct. Neither of them will talk to him. The oldest has not had any contact with him in 5 years.
This is long-standing.
Yes, I'm afraid so. And so the youngest, who was very close with the oldest, was very hurt by that conflict. And so she's had a lot of anxiety and just been miserable here in our home. And so while I'm happy for her that she's made her great escape and she's out, she's with her sister, it's still very hurtful. And we're trying to, finish up. We homeschool and we finish up the year. And it's becoming difficult just to get this. And we're in the 11th hour, the diploma, the transcript, all of that.
And she's okay with you. She's just not okay with your husband.
Yes, correct. They've been, we have had contact and, right.
Okay. So, we don't have much time, but tell me, what is the conflict about?
Yeah. It's about him being verbally abusive and not allowing them to say how they feel or say what they want to do. He wants them to do what he wants them to do. So in regard to school, college or what have you.
So he doesn't basically listen to them at all. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Is he different than that with you?
No. I've had to really learn, and I've been very passive in the marriage, and I've had to really learn in the past 5 years how to just say what I feel and say my opinion and my wants and my needs.
That's good. Is he listening to you?
He does finally when I really buck him on something. Yeah.
You mean when you stand your ground?
Yes.
That's a little different than bucking. That's not even aggressive to sit here and say, this is what I think and this is what I feel.
Yeah.
And that's not bucking. So let's make that normal. Okay.
Okay.
So give, we've got a couple of minutes here. What is the question? Give me the specific question, because I've got some thoughts and I can give you those,
Okay.
but give me the question.
Well, just what is my role exactly? I feel I'm caught between them. If I stand with him, then I'm against them. If I stand with them, then I'm against him. So,
yeah, what I would do is I think you stand for what's true and good. And
okay.
what I would say to him is, I love you. Obviously, I'm committed to you. I'm with you. But you've done something with me. I think that it might be really, really helpful for you to notice how good it is and how beneficial it's been. And that is over the last, I forgot what time period you told me, Wanda, how long you've been kind of having to stand up for your needs. Did you say 5 years? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, say, honey, 5 years ago, I was telling you that I felt really alone and like you didn't hear me and I didn't have a voice, and it was making me not feel close to you and kind of making me move away, and I didn't want that. So I shared with you if you could begin to listen to my side of things and care about those as much as yours, and you did that and you heard me, and that's really helped. And one of the things that I see, and I want the best for you, I want you to have a good relationship with our girls, is I think that's what they're needing from you too. And
Okay.
this isn't something you can't do, because I've seen you do it with me, and you've increasingly won my heart back in those moments. And I got to tell you the truth, because I love you, and I think that's what's needed here. And what I would say is, because I have two parties here that I love. I love our daughters and I love you. And for you, I want you to have a great relationship with your daughters. And I want them to have a great relationship with their father. That's what I want to
Yes.
hear. I'm not trying to make somebody
Yes.
good or bad. I want the best thing for both of you. And I'm telling you, I think the only way you're going to get that is if you lay down your sword and you know, do what God did with his kids. Say, come let us reason together. I want you back.
Right.
It's the kindness that's going to lead to their coming back. And I tell them that. And what I would say to all of them is, I know you guys are in a conflict with each other. Let me tell you where I stand. I love all of you. And I'm not going to choose a side over loving you or not loving the other. What I will do, and I promise you I'll do, is I will stand on what I think is true. And if one of you is acting snitty to the other one, I'll tell you guys. And if the other one is doing it, I'll tell you. So
Okay.
don't interpret me as picking sides between people I love. I want y'all to get together. The only way y'all can get together is for everybody to do the right thing here. That's what I
Right.
would do.
Yes.
And from a time perspective, if you're homeschooling her and she's got to get this high school degree done before she goes to school, I'd kind of triage this and I'd get that done first before you enter into any more conflict.
Right. Right.
Okay. Sorry, we're
Okay.
does that help?
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of times people are worried about which side do I take. Well, take the side of the truth.
Yeah. Yes. Because it's been splitting me, in pieces or in half or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's way, it's one of my favorite Bible verses, as I say on the show, which now is up to about 63,000, right? It my team makes fun of me because I'll say that. They go, "How many favorites do you have? You can't have that many favorites, right?" But what I mean
Right.
is something that really applies to this is it's out of Leviticus 19, and it's very interesting. It says, "Do not pervert justice.
Mm.
Do not defer to the great and powerful." In other words, we got to speak the truth to power when they're wrong. Just because they're powerful doesn't mean we can't hold them accountable.
Okay.
Nor be partial to the poor and needy. And just because, somebody's like not as powerful as the other, if they're doing something wrong, we got to call that too, because generally in conflicts, if we're not calling kind of both parties to the table, okay, everybody's kind of move towards what's good and what's right here, and that's how we're going to get closer, right?
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when you have both of those in one space, we got to confront the power first. They've got the bigger responsibility. They
Okay.
just do. Because otherwise somebody's afraid they're going to be re-victimized. And I just think you have to talk to him and say, look, I'm for both of y'all, but husband, you got a big job here because you got all the power and you're the dad and all this, and things don't get better until leadership does it first. That's what I would say.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Wanda,
you so
thank you
much.
for your heart. Glad you love those girls. I hope they see the value at some point too of doing everything they can to get reconciled to their father, because it's going to serve them well in life, not just with him. Thank you for your call.
Yeah. I know. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay. This is the Dr. Cloud Show. A lot of conflict today that we've heard. One of my favorite Bible verses. I'm going to hang up in a minute, and my team is going to go, "You did it again. You keep saying that favorite. But here's another one. It says this. It's kind of a combo of a couple of them. It says, "Don't return evil for evil, but overcome evil with good." And generally we get in conflict and somebody's going to do something bad. And if, we go, "Well, you do that to me, I'm going to strike back." Right. And now we're returning evil from evil, and now we're not going anywhere. But if somebody rise above it and do something redemptive, that's the greatest chance for bringing the other side up. And so the other part of that principle is that verse, it says, "But in as much as it depends on you," now hear that phrase again, "in as much as it depends on you, be at peace with everybody." What an incredible verse. In as much as it depends on you, be at peace with everybody. By definition, there's a limit to how much depends on you. I mean, you can't control the other person. But in as much as you can do, we can control ourselves. In as much as it's possible for me to do, let me try to make this better. Ultimately, it's going to take two. Let me do everything I can do. I'm going to leave you with that today to think about in any conflict that you might find or any conflict you might see. You might be that third party like Wanda. Let us be peacemakers. Right now, we're living in a moment of horrible unrest and injury. A lot of people victimized. Let's start with what I said we start with. We listen. We listen to how people have been hurt. That's got to happen in this conversation now. We just need to listen how people have been hurt. And I said, for the ones who have hurt people and the ones in power who have hurt people, we need to speak truth to power. And then we need to try to be reconcilers that bring people together instead of causing further division. But it starts by listening, starts by caring, starts by doing what we can do. In as much as it depends on you, in as much as it depends on me, let's do whatever any of us can do as individuals to resolve any kind of conflict that we find ourselves either in or find ourselves a party to, one person separated, and people that we care about are in conflict. Let's be reconcilers and peacemakers instead of further adding to the fuel and being divisive. Okay? God bless you guys. Thank you for joining me today. I love being with you. I love our audience. I love what we talk about. Share the program. Come join us on boundaries.me and become a member. Join that tribe. And let's continue to get some herd immunity when it comes to dysfunction. All right, let's go, guys. Let's do it. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.